Jim would always say that, self-education can make you a fortune. He would actually contrast it with formal education because so many people are conditioned to formal education. You go to school, you go to high school, grades, test, lots of comparisons, lots of striving. Then go to college, what's your GPA? And then you graduate. And Jim had a different approach, and it was an approach that was very refreshing to me because the system, and especially different in Ireland than it is in America, but when I came to America, it just seemed like everybody went to college. It was just the next thing to do. And it is kind of the next thing to do. And again, I often speak in very direct terms about American universities myself. There's some great things with American universities, and there's some real garbage with American universities. And now I can speak to it experientially because I've put 6 kids through college in the States. And I don't quite get why you have to spend the first couple of years doing the stuff you learn in high school. That seems to be nothing more than economics. Many parents, we seem to be conditioned to, hey, it's a good way for them to grow up. They're 18, they come out when they're 22, they get all the wildness out of their system or whatever. And then you hope that they learn something, they major in something, and that all the sacrifice and all the money was worth something. And Jim Rohn came to me with a different philosophy, and it was about self-education. And here's the thing. I was actually pretty good in school. I was a guy that could listen well, I could read well, and I could take a test. And I would probably say that I got disproportionately good results in school compared to my efforts. I don't think I put a lot of effort into sport in school. I put moderate effort into education, and I got much better results probably than I deserved because my skill set matched up with how the testing went. But when I listened to Jim Rohn and I became a real student after school, and I've been a real student ever since, and I've been a committed self-educator since I first got exposed to Jim Rohn, and I would tell you it's made me multiple fortunes. Fortunes to the point that my children can have fortunes and their children can have fortunes. And that's what I owe to self-education. And today I'll be quoting a lot of quotes. I have this little booklet here. There's this fantastic little book. It's called The Treasure Quotes by Jim Rohn. You can find them online. They might be $2, $3, $5 or something, but it's a godsend. I'm going to quote a bunch of Jim quotes today because he is the most quotable person of all time. He would say, ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is poverty. Ignorance is devastation. Ignorance is tragedy. Ignorance is illness. It all stems from ignorance. Jim hated ignorance. He loved education, self-education, not academics, self-education. And he would say a successful business owner never stops learning. If you want to be successful in business, you've got to continually learn. And so a Harvard business study just came out here recently. It said only 24% of people working reported feeling curious in their job on a regular basis. About 70% say they face barriers to asking more questions at work. People are becoming more and more incurious. We have to be curious. We have to ask questions. They say all we needed was more access to more information. Well, we have all the access in the world to information now. It doesn't seem to have made anybody any smarter. So ignorance is not bliss. Here's the second thing is what is the power of personal development? The first time I met Jim in person, I'd listened to him for years. I'd read all his books. I'd been to a number of his seminars. And I had a chance to go to a meet and greet, and I met him in person. And he had a bit of an accent. He asked me questions. He told me about his experiences in Dublin. We had a great old chat. And then he said something he had said on the stage, but he looked me in the eye and he said, Mr. Buffini, if you'll work harder on yourself than you do on your job, you'll go from making a living to making a fortune. Words that it struck me. I might have been 23 years old when I heard those words. So more than 3 decades has passed. And I actually have goosebumps saying those words to you right now while I'm talking to you, because I remember where I was. I remember the look in his eye. And I remember how that day and that changed my life. Work harder on myself than I do on my job. I'll go from making a living to making a fortune. And it's so true. And he would say all these different quotes like life is a unique combination of want to and how to. And we need to give equal attention to both. He would say the most important question to ask on the job is not what am I getting, but the most important question to ask is what am I becoming? Your income is determined by your philosophy, not by the economy. In fact, I recorded an episode called Control Your Own Economy. It's season 1, episode 116, if you want to listen to it. Hugely inspired by Jim Rohn, that episode, which was basically don't get caught up in what the economy's doing or what the rates are doing or what the Fed is doing, all the different reports. Is there a recession? Is there not a recession? Jim would talk about controlling your own personal economy. And so right on. So ignorance is not bliss, the power of personal development. And then when Jim really would get into how self-education can make you a fortune. So again, I'm going to share some things. And again, if you're in the education business, I'm not bagging on you. I'm in the education business. I'm in the adult education business. I have a coaching company that's in the adult education business. But here is some of the facts of the world. And I'm going to kind of shake up the mindset a little bit. ResumeBuilder.com says 1/3 of recent college grads are working at jobs that don't require a college education. So 1/3 of the people who went all the way through college, okay, and we're going to get into the numbers of what that costs in America today, 1/3 of the people are working at a job where they didn't need a degree at all. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York showed that only 27% of college grads have a job related to their major. 1 out of 4 people go through college, get their degree, and then work in the field that they studied. Now, don't get me wrong. I want my doctor to go to medical school. I want my engineer and the bridges I drive on to go to engineer school. I'm glad all my accounting team have accounting degrees. Of course, there's a place for it all. But it's 1 out of 4, which means that 73% of people who graduate from college are not working in their field of specialty. It doesn't mean there wasn't other benefits. It doesn't mean there wasn't the chance to grow up. It doesn't mean they didn't learn something. But it also meant there's not a specificity. And there's a lot of money and a lot of time in formal education. National Student Clearinghouse Organization says only 62% of students that start their degree actually finish the program. So we have 38% dropout rate. And of the 62% that finish, only 27% of them are working in the field that they studied. It's more and more, it's tiny percentages. It's tiny percentages. Basically 15% of all people who start college with a major are actually working in the job, okay? 38% don't graduate at all. So let me just give you now the college data information. And this is a mindset because so many people would shrivel up in America at the thought of not having their kids go to college. But the average private college education in America for a 4-year, which only half the students who graduate complete in 4 years, is $160,000. And you know what? People think nothing of it. People think nothing of getting into debt, getting their kids into debt, having student loans. People think nothing of it. What's wild about that is I have a coaching program that costs around $6,000 a year. The average person who comes into our coaching program makes $38,000 a year. And the average client we had last year made $460,000 a year. So imagine in 4 years, somebody spent $25,000 at Buffini and Company in a coaching program, who then has made $1.5 million doing what they want to do. People agonize over that thought, but people think nothing of spending $160,000, where 38% of the people don't graduate. And then of the 62% that do graduate, 27% of that number end up in the job that they got the degree for. So that has carried on in my life. I learned that from Jim Rohn. I've continued on in that vein. By the way, if you're interested in becoming a millionaire for a fraction of a cost of what it costs to go to college, go to itsagoodlife.com/BC. That's a business consultation. You know what? Colleges don't let you try out the school for free. We actually let you try out coaching for free. So why don't you go get a coaching session and a business consultation? Go to itsagoodlife.com/BC. And it's a fraction of the cost. And so if that's you today, if you have a business and don't have a business coach, but you or your parents spent a boatload of money to go to college, I'd say that's strange. I'd say you might want to take a look and say, maybe there's a better way to go. So have a look at that and see if coaching's right for you. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune, my mentor Jim Rohn said, and he was right. He used to say if someone's going down the wrong road, he doesn't need motivation to speed him up. What he needs is education to turn him around. Our future will be shaped by our personal philosophies, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So ignorance isn't bliss. The power of personal development and self-education can make you a fortune. And I believe it. We have 22,000 people we work with on a one-on-one basis right now. and we help them every day. And our results are they make, on average, at between 10 to 12 times that of their competitors. So that's where it's at, self-education. Thanks for watching. If you want more tips on how to think, feel, and do better, check out these videos too. Oh, by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave us a like if you enjoyed the content.